All right, everyone. Welcome to May edition of Kubernetes Meet Our Contributors. My name is Paris. I do this monthly on the first Wednesday. It's nice to see and or hear you again if you are either joining us on the panel as a vet or joining us live as a newbie or someone that is been experienced and contributing with us for a long time. This show is for you to ask questions. We see a lot of you ask questions in the Kubernetes Dev Slack channel, on mailing lists, on Twitter. This is a live version of that, and we will try to get you to where you need to go on your journey here. Just some house rules first. We do have a code of conduct. Please be excellent to each other. This includes in the Meet Our Contributors Slack channel, or really any Slack channel, Twitter, any forum that we are playing in at that moment. If you'd like to ask questions, you can do so in two different ways. You can do that anonymously, or you can do that publicly. Publicly is better because we get to talk to you live. Anonymously is via DM, direct message on Slack, and my display name is right here on Zoom as well. That's Paris. You'll actually find two Parises on the Slack channel these days. So hello to the other Paris out there. And last but not least, the public questions can be asked and addressed in the Slack channel of the same name, Meet Our Contributors. So before we get into it, I'd like to do a round of introductions with the awesome panelists that gave up their time today to help you. First things first, I will do Aaron. You are first in my Zoom window box here. Who are you and what are you doing here?
Okay, hi there. My name is Aaron Krickenberger. You can find me as @spiffxp on all the places, GitHub, Twitter, Slack, whatever. I am currently the chair of SIG testing and an organizer of the K-Central working group and a member of the steering committee. My interest is primarily, I don't know what it is you people do here, but I want to help you do it better, faster, and stronger. So I work primarily on the infrastructure that helps run tests and make tests usable for the community. And then in Kate's Infra, I help stand up the infrastructure so the community can help manage it. And steering, I try to help empower the community to do things. That's it. Oh, and I work for people, I guess, if that's relevant.
Aaron does things upstream. Jay, you're next in the Zoom Brady Bunch.
Hi, my name is Jay Beal. I am one of the leads on the third-party security audit working group. And let's see, my contributions so far have been outside of working there and leading there. It's no code yet, but documentation, which has been really fun. And if we get a chance, I'll show you how easy that is to contribute to.
Yes.
So, yeah. Day job is at InGuardians where I'm the CTO, and we do lots of Kubernetes penetration testing and security audit and pre-deployment, but pre-cluster build help and so on. So this has been a blast. I've been doing this for a couple of years. And I've really loved the new cloud native world.
Awesome. This just proves that there's so many types of contributors, y'all. And that's what I like to do on this show is make it so that all the mentors here are from different backgrounds and contribute in different ways so that folks can get a really clear sense of all the onboarding paths and different things. So last but not least, Monica, new to the show. Monica, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, yep. I'm Monica. I'm actually a site reliability engineer at VMware currently. My primary involvement has been with the cloud provider SIG, mostly with OpenStack. So I know that's kind of a weirder one. That's from a previous life, but been in smaller changes like doc updates and things, filing bugs or something. That's my area. I guess I'm more of a new contributor, so I would definitely love to encourage, newer contributors to come out there, and even people that don't consider themselves developers. for me, I'll go through and just read docs on how to do something. And if I see a little error, I'm like, okay, good, I found something. And I don't, pretend to be a Go developer at all or anything, but just being out there and trying and following tutorials and not being, that deep dive level of technical there. As an operator of Kubernetes, it's something that I still get to work with a bunch and, like I said, help out and encourage other people to try to step up too.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. So lovely to meet you face to face for the first time. And so the other ground rules is too that I didn't mention before is you all can ask each other questions. Jay, Aaron, Monica, you've never necessarily met each other before. And if you have questions during this time, just butt in, okay? So that's the ground rules. All right, so let's go right into the first one. And it's actually kind of silly, which is good. It'll kick us off in a silly tip. People are really liking your shirt, Aaron. And so folks want to know, how'd you get one? So this is a good story because I think you can talk about your activity with that thing. So why don't you tell us a story about the shirt?
Okay, so actually this shirt is from me getting to serve on the 114 release team of Kubernetes as the release lead. So back in the day, in my very early days of working with Kubernetes, I started helping out with the release process. It's something where like the entire community can help build and curate a release of Kubernetes. So I started out with Kubernetes 1.4, helping with release notes, doing docs changes and stuff, and worked my way through some other roles like issue triage or CI signal, where I'm trying to help figure out like which test failures are real or meaningful, and eventually all the way through to release lead. Now, one of the jobs of the release lead was to help keep the community informed about what's going on with the release, what milestones and deadlines do they need to be aware of, things of that nature. And so back when I was doing this, we had the community meeting happen weekly. And so I felt like sometimes it can be a bit of like a boring process, read out a laundry list of process. And so I thought maybe to help keep people showing up, or at least check it out each week, I would wear a different cat t-shirt each and every week. So that turned out to be 13 cat t-shirts. I should like make a collage of all of them. And so that was pretty fun. And then each release lead gets to make some sort of like exclusive swag for members of the release team. And so, of course, it had to be a cat t-shirt. And I was like, okay, so basically I want 3 wolf moon, but the wolves are cats and the moon is Kubernetes. And I think it came out pretty well.
People tuning in are like, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. So like
Sig fashion right now is reporting in.
There were
I really want the cats to have lasers. I don't know why. It may be that I'm a Kubernetes attacker, but I think it's honestly just that when I see that many cats on a t-shirt, they always have lasers.
Yeah. So for folks who want to know how they can get awesome swag, if you try joining the release team, that's a great place to help out. We generally solicit people for that. I think there's a call out right now for people to be like shadows of different release team roles. It's gotten a lot better at explicit mentoring of people and things of that nature. So I highly encourage checking out the release team.
Yes. Do Jay or Monica, do you have any experience with a release team? And no is totally fine. I was just curious.
I do not, and I am severely under quota on number of cat t-shirts as well. So
Me too. Me too. I'm allergic, so I don't necessarily wear cat t-shirts either. Jay, what about you?
I literally don't have a single cat t-shirt, and at this point it feels a little deficient, and makes me start wondering if I should be hunting around the Kubernetes project to see what swag you can get with different with lots and lots of contribution to different areas. It's like, oh wow,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know what? We should. Oh, actually, you know what? I do. I have a a contributor summit one too. So you also get different varieties. This was the Barcelona one from Josh Burkus. So yes, so there are ample ways of getting exclusive swag within the project when you contribute. So I guess that's the TLDR there is there's other fun besides flipping bits. So that's the good news is that there is tons of other stuff. Cool.
Yeah, you have to come to the contributor summit this last year. They did a really, really great hoodies, and I treasure mine.
Do I have mine on? No, I have my EFF one on. Yes, no, I love all of the swag and how folks really get creative with it. All right. So next question comes in from someone, they just were curious about your journeys, honestly. And in this case, journey being upstream. So you said a little bit in your bios about what you do upstream and how you've gotten involved. But take us through that, like maybe first PR that you did and also the why behind it. Were you like motivated because you were employed? Were you motivated because you wanted to change a doc because you were reading the doc? Just take us through kind of how you got here, really. Monica, why don't you go first, since you started that path a little bit in your intro. So
Sure.
talk to us a little bit about the why.
Yes. Previously I worked, like I said, with OpenStack. And so, if there was an issue that came up in OpenStack documentation, I would, try to update it because I saw that it was wrong. And I thought, well, that's easy enough to fix, And so the same thing kind of happened once I got over to Kubernetes. So for me, it was just waiting for an opportunity to be able to contribute. I'd gone through trying to figure out, oh my gosh, look at all these tags, help needed and first time issue or first time or something, different tags like to help new people get in, and it was super overwhelming. So just seeing something small that I thought, oh my gosh, like I can actually tackle that, I can help, I just wanted to be able to contribute in some way. I certainly I wasn't going to be able to start off with like adding new features to something like that was a little beyond me. So just being able to do like a simple doc update for a typo or just the way something was worded, it was good. And then understanding like all of the comments as far as when you do the PR. You have to do the little like what is it called? Like the signature, and like you say like I'm the not the licensing, but you know what I mean, the contributor agreement, right?
Yeah.
So doing that and kind of understanding how that works and reading through the flow was pretty straightforward. And then doing the PR where you get the automated bot comments. You're like, oh my gosh, what is this? What is this? Why was it rejected? Well, because I forgot my contributor agreement, So just simple things like that. Going through the first time was kind of, it was fine. Like it wasn't super overwhelming because it was just a small update, but it really helped me understand how the flow works and how you kind of go through this. And then sitting in on like the SIG cloud provider meetings as well and realizing, wow, like there is this whole list of things that they're working on, like the goals, and here are the changes, and this is really cool how well it's communicating and stuff. So communicated. So I just really, wanted to help out there. That's why I did it. I certainly work with Kubernetes on a daily basis, so it's always good to make something better that you work with every day. But it wasn't like you have to contribute. From my employer, they didn't, whatever. Good if you do. It's fine if you don't. But yeah, it's pretty much it.
Good you had the support nonetheless. So
yes.
Yeah, good story. Thanks, Monica. Jay, what about you? Tell us about your first experience upstream.
Sure. So I started getting before trying to help in the project itself, I started working on some tools, on creating some tools, like one of those is an intentionally vulnerable Kubernetes cluster, and another is kind of an attack tool that's useful if you're on a pen test. And so I was really interested in figuring out how I could help on Kubernetes, playing from that attacker and defender perspective. And so I ended up just kind of, I think what motivated me was I saw Jess Frizzell was talking about multi-tenancy in a tweet. And I said, wow, it sounds like they're really still trying to figure out the multi-tenancy model for Kubernetes. That's, like as somebody as somebody who plays in security all day, that was horrifying. And yet it's an open source project, and it's something like, and it's horrifying is often really, really like that's what gets security people really interested. Like, okay, cool. What, you know, what's that look like? What can I learn about? What can I do there? And so I showed up to the multi-tenancy working group and just tried to listen and then contribute. And I showed up to the third-party security audit working group. Um, and there I found there was a lot I could contribute because I was from a company that did a ton of did a ton of kind of security audits, not the kind that we do for Kubernetes, like more network focused and not code audit. And I thought, well, wait, I can help here. I know what it's like to be the third party. I bet I can help. I bet I can help us find a third party and help manage and answer questions and just help somebody help a firm get connected in and understand, like get connected with what they have to figure out in order to audit our source code, because it's just a really big. Kubernetes is a giant project, and it's heck, it's not even all written in Go. Um, and and so I just started contributing, and eventually they made me one of the leads, and I've gotten to contribute quite a bit, and I've gotten to and it's been a really good time. On the flip side, either Paris, you let me know, either right now or later, I can show kind of just how easy it is to get into documentation, because that was the other one for me. Like for somebody who's just figuring out how to contribute, like you've become experienced with Kubernetes, you're trying to figure out how to get in. Monica brought this up too. Like for me, the first contributions I made were to documentation, and it was literally I was building this intentionally vulnerable cluster, and the pod security policies didn't work the way work is the wrong word. Were documented just a little tiny bit wrong in terms of how you set them. And so I'm like, well, okay, I can write, I've edited Wikipedia. Like, let me see if I can figure out how to do this. And that's where I did my CLA. That this happened prior to the working group, but that's where I did my CLA and went through that same process Monica was talking about, and and submitted my first pull request against docs, and that was kind of fun, and it was pretty easy. I mean, I've been really impressed with how easy the Kubernetes organization makes it, and how open they were to somebody who hadn't ever contributed before, um, saying, hey, I think I found something I can, I think I found something. What do you think of this? So
Yeah,
I hope that wasn't way too long-winded.
No, that was great. Let's do the doc share in a little bit, because I have a feeling that we'll have a more poignant question towards that, just based on past experience. So, but yes, I do want to see that. Aaron,
I'll
oh,
add in just a little bit. I think every time that I was involved with Kubernetes, like, and people would say, "Oh, anybody can contribute. Anybody can try a doclate," and you think, "Oh, yeah, sure. Like that sounds fine," And then going to like the new contributor summit and really being encouraged to do that, and then actually trying it. I mean, they really do, whoever they is, really do want anybody to contribute, and it really is possible. Like you don't have to be technical, and that's one of the things I think I was really amazed. I didn't want to be super competitive with how many git commits or something. How much have you done? What does your chart look like? How much green? And so I've really seen that people do. They just want you to help. I mean, however you can, because there's too much. There's just too much stuff to do. So anything that anyone can contribute, really, it's true. You can help out too.
I'm going to ask you a question a little bit about new contributor workshop, but let's shelve that for 1 second. But that was a good. I liked that. Aaron, what about your first journey here? Your first PR? Why?
So I started as a consumer of Kubernetes back in 2015, slightly before it went 1.0. I didn't land my first pull request, it looks like, until October 5th of 2015.
You looked.
Dude, I didn't know the date, but like I considered myself a member of the community long before I had landed my first pull request, because even back then in those early days, while there were no SIGs and whatever, there was the community meeting where I could show up and sort of hear what was going on, ask questions of community members, so on and so forth. I really wish the Meet Our Contributors thing was around back then. I think that would have been really great. So the first PR I landed was code I didn't write. I just cherry picked a fix from the master branch into a release branch because I was deploying Kubernetes with a thing called Hypercube, which is now deprecated, but there was a bug and I needed the bug to work on my branch. And then I was doing this to deploy a 1,000-node Kubernetes cluster to prove that it could work at 1,000 nodes, while Kubernetes officially only supported 100 nodes as of that release, which led to us eventually forming the first SIG for Kubernetes, the scalability SIG, where we help to like document and define what Kubernetes should officially support and what metrics there were and stuff. But so that was how I got started. And then just to go a bit further from that, like I was really interested in how Kubernetes was tested publicly. It felt like at the time, a lot of the tests that were driving Kubernetes and that people were paying attention to weren't actually publicly accessible. They were on some Jenkins server hidden behind the walls of google.com, or they were also running on Travis, or they were also running on Shippable. It was weird back then. But I was kind of interested in making sure that Kubernetes could work kind of wherever you needed it to work, and that we had publicly visible test results for all of that stuff. And so I helped co-found SIG testing. It was like the second or third SIG back in the day. And there was a little less process then than there is now, but it still kind of effectively was like a group of interested people who wanted to rally around a topic and getting consensus from the community that felt like a good idea. Yeah, it's been a long way since then.
It has, faux show. All right, so I definitely have some questions from DMs. I'm trying to place those in the chat too as they come in. I actually wanted to hop to a Kubernetes dev question that's in that channel right now, because I actually think it's a good question for the crew, is about how you find out who owns something. So you submit a PR or want to submit a PR or want to submit an issue, etc. And you need to find this thing called a SIG. For those who are watching and they're like, what's a SIG? SIG is a special interest group. That's how we break down the code base. Those are the bodies of people that own that thing. So you've got a contributor here, and I'm going to share my screen so that you see the deets. So this contributor is saying, what's the best channel to discuss node lifecycle manager, in particular, no execute heap manager? They say they know who owns the code. They can obviously look at the owner's file, right? But how do they know what SIG is responsible? Now, panelists, you don't necessarily need to know the answer right now, but if you had to take a journey, and this journey being either submitting an issue or a pull request, you need to figure out what the SIG is. What are some ways that you would do that? I think Aaron probably has an extremely technical response. Jay or Monica, how would you find how would you find out a SIG if you didn't necessarily know? Would you talk to people, ping a Slack channel? Talk to me about some of your process there.
Let me go. Okay. So for me, I see right there in the chat window, it says like the labels, it needs a SIG, right? So
yes.
Obviously that, the issue doesn't have that right now. So that's why you're asking. So for me, when I'm looking for what SIG it is, I'm going to go probably look at the relevant code, maybe do like, look at the log, the history, the git blame, whatever it might be, to see, what other commits were put around that code, if it's in like part of a module or something, just the general area, and then look at other issues and see what the other issues have had for as far as the SIG label, because the labels are pretty good. I feel like whenever I look for an issue, there's usually already a bug opened or something very close to it. So it usually it's not too hard to find a SIG. And then, there's the list of all of the Kubernetes SIGs, right? Which can be kind of like, it's big and you might not exactly know, well, what does cloud provider mean? And then inside a cloud provider, like there's a ton of different components to that. So that can be difficult, but if you've got a general idea, well, it's, it's testing related, you can kind of drill down, and get the idea from that as well.
Yeah. Finding other issues in PRs that are similar that do have SIG labels is a perfect way if you don't necessarily know the owner's method and like how they're mapping it from charters and stuff. So that's an awesome example. Jay, you're doing security audit and you need to find a piece of code and who owns it.
That's a really good question. I don't know, for some reason they've all been easy so far.
I'll describe easy and why you think it's easy.
Uh-oh. It's been the like, okay, this is well, clearly this code is about authorization. We got to go find somebody from SIGAuth. Go find the SIGAuth page, find out, find that they've got a Slack channel. Go join their Slack channel. Either ask publicly or ask publicly and throw something to the tech leads or to the chair. But that's if it's really time sensitive, like mention the specific people, or throw a, I don't like so much to throw a private message at one person, because I know that first, people are working time zones, and second, if you were to choose the first person on the list, on owner's list or what have you, you've got to, it's it's way too much. You're likely to be everyone's likely to be piling on the same person. So uh, I don't know. It's almost like, do you round robin on private message, or do you just hit a group, or best, do you just hit the channel and mention the names, unless you're dealing with something that might be, embargoed. But so yeah, for me, Slack's been really good, and asking the people I know, who they know, has been good. But honestly, Slack's been pretty great, um, and the project is, I've actually been pretty surprised that nobody's been. It's never felt. I don't know if you ever have this fear, but I have, certainly, when when you come to something new. It's like, are people going to be like, do you know who I am? I'm way too important to answer your question, or I'm way too important to handle that. Like, at the very least, if anybody's way too busy, they'll punch you to, they'll introduce you to somebody else, and that's perfect. But everyone's always been really friendly, and I've really appreciated that. I appreciated that quite a bit.
Oh, so you're saying we're friendly.
Either that or it's like a big evil, or everyone's, where they've got cookies and smiles, and you don't know until you don't know how evil it is until you're sitting where Aaron and Paris are, where they've had to, where they've done so much. Like, somebody finally says, "Oh, by the way, it's the evil empire in here somehow."
It's cat t-shirts.
I know that joke didn't work. Yeah.
That's good, Jay. Thank you. And for folks that are joining us from Twitter and they're like, Slack? What Kubernetes Slack? Slack.kates.io for your invite. I think most of the people that watch this program, by the way, are on Slack, because they get a lot of the messages through there about this program. But if you're out there and just joining us, slack.kates.io, K8s.io.
It's probably pretty good to mention, this is one of the Slacks that has an auto join, where when you hit that page, you're going to be able to sign up. You're going to be able to sign up for an account, like, immediately. It's not one where you have to get an individual person to give you an invite.
And we are about 30 minutes into this journey, so we're about half done. For folks that are just joining us and they are wondering what the heck is going on here, whether you're joining us from Twitter, Slack, Kubernetes Dev mailing list, whatever, wherever you found us. If you're just joining and you'd like to ask questions, please do. The Meet Our Contributors Slack channel is where you can ask publicly, or you can direct message me. My message is, or my handle is Paris. And that's really it. So Aaron, let's float into that last question again. The question being, how would you find an owning SIG for either a PR or an issue that you are doing?
Well, I don't think I have a super technical answer. I'm so sorry, Paris.
Ah,
I would do kind of what Jay suggested, I think. So I searched for no execute taint manager in the code to see like what file it lived in. And some in the path to get there had the words node and scheduler. So I'd probably go ask either sig node or sig scheduling in Slack. If nobody responded for a while, I might add like the chairs or the tech leads. And I would presume if that's not the right place to ask about it, they would probably point me in the direction of another channel. Yeah, the slightly more technical answer I could give doesn't really work super well for issues, but like if you're submitting a pull request, we have a feature where a label will automatically get applied to your PR based on what are called owners files that live in folders along the way. Which is actually how this person said they could know who, like which individuals own the code. They looked at the owner's file that was in the same directory or parent directory of that piece of code. And it's great that it's there and it does list people, but the best owners files also have something that specify like which SIG the PR should be labeled as. And this particular owners file is missing that. So I'm kind of just as confused as this person and would go use Slack.
Could I
go ahead.
recommend that once you figure out the answer, you could put a pull request against the owner's file?
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it'd be super helpful.
And
Yeah.
if you felt really bashful about that, you know, like you could do you could file an issue. But you know, anywhere that I in a lot of places, anywhere there's just a chance for a pull request, if it's something really, really straightforward, the pull request is probably kinder to the whole project than the issue.
That is that I want that on a shirt, actually. That's a good phrase. I've never really put it that way before. Well, Aaron, I thought you were going to mention, the C word, which is charter. That's what I thought. I thought you were going to go to the charter method, which is
I got lucky on this one, but yeah.
Well, yeah, if you know, like if it's one or two or maybe even three SIGs, you can always go to the SIG list. I'm actually going to share my screen so it's less boring of me talking at folks.
That's kind of funny to me that Aaron said he would, you know, at the like owners of the SIG. I can't imagine ever doing that. I mean, I'm a new contributor. I do have that feeling of like, I'm too new, like I'm nobody. I would never go bother somebody that's like the owner or the head or something of a SIG. So I've never felt that way. I mean, like Jay was saying, everybody is super nice and helpful and they never, you know, there's never a dumb question, right? But I still feel like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't go and ask someone. That's ridiculous.
Now you know. Ask. So in this SIG list, each one of these groups has a charter, and in the charter they have the top of the root of what we call a sub-project and their owner's file listed. So if you can figure out the kind of the tree of where the things go, and you have a few SIGs, you can always kind of look here as a kind of a backwards method as well. I've used this before myself, where I can clearly see kind of what the tree looks like, and I probably can take a guess on a few of the SIGs or what they would be, and then you can just go and look at charters. Charters are awesome. Yay, charters. All right. So we do have another question in chat. Actually, it was DMs and I put it in chat. And they want to know how they can help fix flaky tests. They say, we see flaky tests, but does that mean SIG testing owns it? How do they find out who owns it? Should they join SIG testing? There was a lot of questions in DMs about this. So TLDR is, how do they find out who owns a flaky test and how can they help contribute to the betterment of that?
Oh boy, it's my favorite topic of all time.
Aaron.
One did seem for Aaron.
Yeah, for For those that again are just joining in, Aaron is the chair of SIG testing. So Aaron is going to have a good answer for this one for us.
Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. So I'm gonna link us to, I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna link us to a page called Flaky Tests that lives inside of community. So this page here talks about like generally how to write your tests to avoid flakes in the first place. So these are some good anti-patterns to avoid if you happen to notice them. If you have identified that a test is definitely flaky and it seems like it's really impeding the project, you are totally free to open up a pull request that tags the test as flaky. So there's an example PR linked here, which all it does is add the word flaky to the test name. That gets it out of the critical path. And then we link to a couple of tools that might help you chase down if you're looking for a particular flake, or you're just looking to be like helpful of the most like painful flake of the day. This flake's latest link is a report that shows for this text is way too small. For this job, the pull Kubernetes E2E job, these are the top 10 tests that flake the most. And a flake is defined as the test has both passed and failed against the same commit, even though nothing has changed. And so network should set TCP close wait timeout is the flakiest thing. So I'm just going to copy this text here. And then I'm going to go back to my favorite tool of all time, which is GoKate's. So I realize now this text is probably unreadable. GoKate's IO triage. So this is a handy thing that shows all of the test failures aggregated together by the text that gets spewed out when the test fails. So all the red here are all the tests that fail. Blue is the jobs or build that fail. And so if I scroll down, I can see here, for example, I can see that something started happening around the middle of May 4th, or between May 4th and late May 4th, I guess, that has caused a new failure cluster to start happening a bunch. And I can see that failure cluster, it looks to be basically the same test is failing. It looks like it's failing across a bunch of different jobs. I can use these spark lines to see like, oh, actually, you know what? It turns out there are a bunch of different tests that are all failing in this particular way. And it looks like it's failing across a couple different jobs. And then I can click this link to go see like the latest example of the job. But so for my purposes, we were talking about what's that flakiest test. It was network should set TCP close wait. So I'll hit that. And now it looks like this particular error seems to be what's happening for that test, or this error, so on and so forth. So that gives me some insight that I could use to then go look at the test and see like, okay, so why would that error happen? And at that point, maybe I could try reproducing the test failure myself. If I didn't have access to a cloud, I would probably try reproducing the test error on Kind, which is Kubernetes in Docker, which I forgot where I put a link to that.
Just so many links, you know?
Kind.sigs.kate.io will get you there. And this would tell you how to like download and install Kind. And there are all sorts of guides here, including how to run end-to-end tests against Kind. If you can't reproduce it against Kind, I kind of don't know what to tell you from there, but definitely it would be helpful to open an issue to describe what troubleshooting has been done against this test to call it a flake thus far. And just, pardon?
Can you show us how it gets the test?
Yeah, so So the file name in question here is Kubernetes test E2E kube proxy. So I would go look for this file in the code base. I don't unfortunately have a link I can click to get there. So I'm just going to have to know test E2E network kube proxy. So I would go to test E2E network, and then kube proxy, and what line did it say it was failing at? 208. So down here, 208. So the failure is happening here. We're waiting for pods to get ready for whatever reason. Anyway,
Debugging.
Cool.
I caught along long enough. Hopefully that is helpful. Fixing flaky tests is amazing and super duper incredibly helpful. Flakes are the bane of our existence. They are definitely what prevent us from merging code faster than we could. It is definitely really frustrating when I submit a PR that's like a one-line docs change, and then suddenly there are a bunch of random test failures in all these jobs I've never heard of before. What's that about? So like if you don't have the time to address that, because I recognize not everybody does, that's fine. You know, you can /retest to try rerunning the jobs. Or if you happen to notice why the failure is happening, you could maybe open an issue to help other people notice that there's something going on that's causing pain. But yeah.
That was really cool. And for me, part of what was really cool was when you showed us the top 10, and I'm looking at the line for one of those, being like, huh, that one looks like something I might be able to figure out. Like that's okay, you told me what's like that top 10 shows me like what you might care about most, or what might relieve pain for people the most, and kind of gives me a challenge, and I can go and dig in. This is similar to like when I go look at the issues, look at an issues tracker and go searching for things that might be something I can contribute. Like I actually saw one on there with um, kube control for for execing a pod, and I was like, huh, I think I might be able to go and hit that. And that might actually end up being what I have to do today just for fun.
Yay, yes.
But yeah, like that was really cool to see. And Aaron, like I imagine, like so, I think it's no accident that Monica and I have both talked about how we've had, early successes as contributors with changing, with seeing something in the docs and wanting to change it, because it was pretty easy, and you're not that worried about really, like that you haven't figured out what the grand plan is, that there might be too much, that there might be a very long, I don't want to say learning curve, more like a very long like communications curve to when you can make a first when you make a first contribution. Like if we wanted to contribute on a test, if we wanted to try to contribute to fix a flaky test, is there anything we need to do before just like grabbing kind or grabbing our own cloud cluster and building and testing, or and then trying to fix the test? Like, do we reach out to somebody who have to join SIG testing? Like, what do we have to do if we want to go fix a test?
Thank you for asking that question. And you reminded me, Paris tried to put a little, one of my pain points is people think that SIG testing owns all of the tests, and we don't. We are here to empower other people to write whatever tests they need to, and to make sure that they get actionable results from those tests. But we often don't, like I said, I don't understand the very specific business logic of a lot of Kubernetes, even for as long as I've been around this project. There is vast amounts of it that I do not comprehend. So when it comes to troubleshooting a specific test, I'm probably just as good at this as the rest of you are. I'm gonna have to be learning a lot of stuff from scratch. So if I do need some domain expertise to figure out like what is expected behavior here, I'd probably go try to ask questions of the SIG in question. And thankfully, most of our end-to-end tests have the SIG name embedded within them. Thank you, Paris, for sharing the CI signal board. So part of the release team, there is a role called CI signal that is staffed by a team of people, a lead and some shadows. And they try to keep track of tests that are continuously failing or tests that are continuously flaking. They tend to care most about tests and jobs that live on the release blocking and release informing test grid dashboards, which I don't think I had time to show test grid to you. But those are often where like humans might be more prone to paying attention and pinging stuff. So having a dialogue on those issues is helpful, and then maybe having an ask in the CI signal chat in Kubernetes Slack. They may be able to help point you in the right direction. Thank you, Paris.
Okay, Jay, that was a good question. Thank you. I was
Sure.
gonna say the same thing. So does that mean we all go to SIG testing and complain there? Dang it.
My other the other thing that came up for me was I was like, wait, Aaron, you showed me some cool links, like, but how do I find them myself? And someone has been posting them. People have been posting them into the Slack channel. So if you're
Yeah.
watching the Zoom recording of this, the links are in this. I've never been on this, so if it all goes up some other way, I'm sorry, but yeah, if you're watching the Zoom recording of this, go hit the Slack channel to get the links for all the stuff people have been talking about.
There's also, I'm going to link this to contributor cheat sheet. It's kind of like the contributor guide condensed, but it's just pretty much links. And that has a bunch of this stuff on there too. So yeah, all right. And any other questions that our panelists have, because we have a few more minutes and then wrap up. So do y'all have any questions for each other? If not, no worries. All right. I'm looking right now. I think that might have been it for our questions as well.
Paris, did you want to ask me about the new contributor summit?
Yes, thank you. I was like, I'm trying to think of what I shelved. I know that I pushed something aside. Yes. Tell us about your experience with New Contributor Workshop. And for folks that are on the line and watching who have no idea what it is, just give a little bit of background, maybe like how you found out, things like that. Cool. So maybe a little bit more context than you would usually give.
Sure.
Let's hear it.
Well, basically at the Kubecon, right, at the Kubernetes conferences, there's a ton of different workshops, right, for lots of stuff. So one of the workshops that you guys run that Paris obviously is involved with is the contributor workshop. So there was a new contributor workshop, and then there was an intermediate, I think. So it was, well, I think it was like a day 0, wasn't it? I think so. Basically, you know, we came into a room and there's, I don't even know, like over 100 people for sure. I mean, there was a ton of people in the workshop. And I think this year I did the intermediate one, and you know, we had an intro. You know, you get to sit at the table with a bunch of different people, and so I was sitting at people from like Google and Amazon, and not even like people that are heavy into, you know, they've already done this, right? They're intermediate or beginners, and they're just getting into it, trying to learn. And even people like, one person was a project manager, right? Not someone you would typically think like, oh, they're going to go and be a contributor. But just everyone was interested in getting involved, right, and contributing. So yeah, so we had, you know, walking through opening your first PR. We talked about the different SIGs, kind of going through some stuff, answered a ton of questions. You know, this year there were a couple technical issues, you know, with the wireless there, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a really positive experience. It was very nice to get the sweatshirt. I thought that was super nice. I didn't expect that at all. That was a nice surprise. And honestly, just getting to talk with the other people at the table, like, what are you doing with Kubernetes? How are you getting involved? Like, hearing their stories was really cool, and it really it gets you really motivated, I think, to go and go forth and contribute, right? And I think that's a really good part of the experience too.
Oh, darn, we should have had this on May 4th. Dang it. Dang it. I didn't plan this right. That first Wednesday always kicks us. Anyway. Monica, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for attending too, and just being helpful with everyone around you. It's a very nice peer mentoring environment, and thank you for participating in that. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up the May edition of Meet Our Contributors. I usually like to go out with a pretty ambiguous tip, meaning tip for either new or aspiring or current contributors, anything that's on the top of your mind right now that you want contributors to know. like I said, it can be ambiguous, it can be very detailed. Some people, like Aaron in the past, have said SIG testing doesn't own your flaky tests, things like that. Things like that. So why don't you, somebody go first and kick us off into the end here? Any tips, tricks, or advice for new or current contributors?
Go read documentation just to understand enough about the project that enough about the software and the projects that you know a little bit how things are organized. Um, don't let that get in your way though. If you're reading through docs and you see something and you know something, go for that pull request. Um, yeah, I had one more, but oh yeah, issues pages. Trolling the issues pages, trolling that, as Aaron was showing us the broken tests, the flaky tests page, go looking for stuff you can do. And then the last one I think is the classic for me is the classic open source, scratch your own itch. Find that thing that you're interested in because it's either annoying to you or you have a vision for a way you could help that would be cool. And that's where you'll have the most motivation and you'll want to help and learn.
And if folks are interested in contributing to security related topics, where do they go?
Oh, so the third-party security audit working group is absolutely eager for help. SIGAuth is a good place is also good for security related topics. The PSC is they're there if you have a vulnerability if you have a vulnerability to report. PSC is one place, the bug bounty is another. Heck, come join all the Slack channels for every single one of those groups, including the security audit working group. I can't wait to see you there.
Awesome. Jay, thank you so much for coming on today, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Monica or Aaron, which one is next for tip? Monica.
Yeah, I'll go. I'll just say I posted in the Slack channel as well. I always use the labels. So I'm like, you know what? I want to try and do something. And even after today, I'm like, I need to contribute more. I need to do something. So I'm already looking at the labels for good first issue or documentation. Like I have done a first issue, but still, some of them are at least kind of more entry level, if you will. So go use those labels. They are super helpful. And truly, you don't have to be this like super knowledgeable developer, experience and stuff. You can go read the docs. I love that cheat sheet, the contributor cheat sheet that you just shared. That's awesome. I didn't know that was there. Go look. There's a ton of stuff out there. Just take a look and give it a shot. What do you have to lose?
That is right. Monica, thank you so much for joining us today, by the way, especially at the last minute. That was so awesome of you to be flexible for folks. I appreciate it. Aaron, you're hitting us out of here. What's the tip?
Okay. I just want to underscore how important docs fixes are. How understandable and well written and complete our docs are is something that those of us who have been on the project for a while are completely blind to. Like we just don't have the fresh eyes for it anymore. So that's an incredibly valuable thing that you can bring to the table as a new contributor. It's something that many of us don't have. So I think starting with doc fixes is a totally appropriate place to start. And if that's all you do, that's great too. Like seriously, we could use the help. I'll put in another plug for the Kate's Infra working group. So that's where we are looking for ways to stand up and manage the infrastructure that helps run the Kubernetes project. It is mostly a volunteer effort run by people who contribute to the Kubernetes project, but may not necessarily have a super great, amazing operational experience of running stuff on Kubernetes. So if you're out there and you happen to use Kubernetes in your day job, so you know how to run things and manage it and stuff, we could really use your help or expertise. And again, from a perspective of docs or from a perspective of how to organize things or just sharing what you've done that works for you, it's all super helpful and appreciated. So that's WG Kates Infra on Slack, and we also have a folder in the community repo.
And that's it. That's our show. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on as well. My tip is to stay safe, stay inside if that's the thing. Stay at distance. Be easy on yourselves. Be easy on each other. And see you in June. All right. Thank you so much. See y'all later. Bye.